You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week our team discusses news and events from this past week as well as previewing the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbay, and Speaker. And recently, this podcast has also been featured on thechairshot.com. My name is Miranda Morales. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, and I'm going to bring in the rest of this team. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how's it going today?
Oh, it's going fantastic. How's it going for you, Miranda?
I am doing well. We are, in the middle of still coordinating scheduling due to this whole thing called daylight savings. The logistics.
Yeah.
But hey, we got you covered, ladies and gentlemen. We still got all of the Lucha Libre news that you need to know. And we can't do it without the third member of this trio. And that's who?
Who?
Who are we talking about? That is the one and only Brendan Barr.
That's who?
That's right, it's me.
It's you. Yes.
So daylight savings time. This may be the last year we do it in Seattle and Washington State.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
You come to the dark side of Arizona where we just ignore it and nothing changes ever here.
Well, I'm afraid logistically for us that may wind up that I stay eternally on the wrong side of us, so that we eternally are 3 time zones representing in this show now. But
Jeez.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It still has to pass.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, but we're still professionals here. We still bring you the Lucha Libre news that you need to know. We got you covered this week on WWE, AEW, MLW, Ring of Honor. We got some AAA news. We got it all for you. So without further ado, let's kick off the show, as we always do, with Brendan and the road back to shows.
Sweet. So Mexico City is still orange. I am sure that all of you listening are shocked to hear this after the last couple of weeks, but that's where we are. We're getting closer and closer. You're going to start hearing more and more announcements of shows with fans. I believe, we're going to have a few of those this week, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Only by a tiny bit. Arena Coliseo Guadalajara is opening to fans. They are going to have, or open to fans. They were allowing about 300 people. Now, Lucha Blog has them listed as having like a 7,000 person capacity, so that's a pretty significant dispersal. But it is still a show in an arena, and a CMLL arena even, with fans in attendance. So that's a start. We will take that. Other shows that are probably going to stream for free, are probably going to have fans. I'm reading my notes while I'm trying to talk. That's always the plan. On 320, we're going to have a Riot Promotions is going to have a Covidiotas. It's a Covidiot play, just with Spanish. So I'm just murdering the words. It's my gimmick, remember? I murder Spanish words. It will be streaming live for free on the Lucha Mania Monterrey YouTube channel. So 320 Lucha Mania Monterrey. They've got 4 matches listed. Latigo versus Eric Ortiz. The winner of that will get a title shot. Hijo del Vikingo versus Aries. Aramis versus Jimmy. And Willie Banderas and Brian Villa versus Kamikaze and Promito. So, sounds like a decent little show. I will check it out, and if it looks like they're obeying safety standards, I will even put their results into the Indie Roundup. So in our follow-up to the Blue Demon story, we have Blue Demon speaking very briefly in an interview where all he says is his wife's accusations were low. And then he kind of goes on to just not talk about it. So he's not confirming or denying anything. He's just saying that, from low kind of makes it sound like he thinks that the timing on this is awful. So hopefully we get more information on this in the future. I do want to hear more on Blue Demon's exploits and his run for political office, but we kind of need to get this settled before I get too excited about that. The documentary Luchadoras, about 4 female wrestlers in Ciudad Juarez, premiered at South by Southwest. I don't know why I'm struggling with that word. That's totally the name of it, South by Southwest. It's expected to be at more film festivals. So, I am hoping that we will be able to get to watch a version of this movie at some point and be able to talk about it. It's a very interesting concept for the documentary, and I'm very excited to look at it, even if I have to go to California and watch it or some other madness. And then lastly, in our road back to shows, I have a nice little bit of kind of happy news. I don't know if they made an announcement and I missed it, or if just so much other stuff has been going on and they just decided that they were going to slowly do this, but Santino Brothers Academy was posting images and videos of people training inside their facility, which is not a thing that's happened for some time thanks to COVID and other circumstances. So it was very exciting to see. I don't have a lot of details on that, but I wish you guys at the Santino Brothers Academy all the luck in the world as the world tries to reopen, and wrestling schools, especially lucha schools, really are important to me personally, but also to the wrestling industry. So I really wish you guys a lot of luck. Cool. And I still don't have Dusty to sing me in, so I'm just going to do the indie, do the indie roundup.
We'll have to bring it back in a revival one of these weeks.
Yeah, you're going to have to do it live, Dusty.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do it live.
We're going to figure out the technology and make it happen. But CCW did have Christy Janes contending for the women's title on their YouTube broadcast this week, a live wrestling. It is a solid match, and I'm not going to spoil the result because it's for a title, but if you are a Christy Janes fan, I believe that is Legends of Lucha Libre performer and star Christy Janes, you should go on their YouTube channel and check it out. And then I have found out from comments from other people that Lucha Time, who I've been covering, has been kind of bending the rules a lot as far as COVID prep. So instead of catching up on their channel like I have been doing, I'm just going to give them a few weeks off, and we will see how things go as Mexico reopens and bring them back into the rotation shortly. So that is my indie roundup for this week. As always, I encourage you, if you are a performer, a promoter, a referee, anybody that's involved in the show, even a super fan, if you have an indie show that you want me to look at and talk about on the air, please put it in front of me. We'll hand out the socials later in the show so that you can do that. You can send it to anybody else associated with the show, and they can get it to me if that's easier for you. But please do that, and emphasize, if you can, how you're meeting or exceeding safety standards, because that is always a guaranteed shout-out. Anybody who has a safe show is somebody I will automatically promote at this point in the show.
That's awesome, yeah.
Fantastic. And, Brendan pulling through on his threats and promises that if you are not running a safe show, he is not going to cover you.
No matter who you are.
Nope. So there you go. And
that's actually what my notes for Lucha Time this week was, just nope.
Great. Well, thank you, Brendan, for the road back to shows and the indie roundup. And up next, we're going to kick it off to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mass, Mats, and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's WrestleBoss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
As always, a big thank you to Denise Salcedo, who lets us know what's happening throughout the Lucha Central podcast network with Lucha Central. Up next, Dusty, you're going to let us know what happened this week on WWE, SmackDown, and Raw.
Yeah, well, there was really nothing relevant on Raw, But on SmackDown, Bray and Dominic joined Street Profits to take on Otis, Chad Gable, Dolph Ziggler, and Robert Roode in an 8-man tag match that brought a predictably difficult layout, but had a lot of very clean work in the ring. Overall, though, it was largely a meaningless match just to kind of bide their time. It's exciting to see somebody like Street Profits interacting with the Luchadors again, though. Their work with Andrade and Garza last summer was fantastic. It just dragged on too long to maintain, like, your interest, and which is now what they're doing with the Mysterios. It's dragging on so long meaninglessly that you don't know why you're watching. So, they won their match, but still not great placement for the Mysterios on SmackDown. But in really big news, Andrade this week. News broke at the end of last week that Andrade had asked for and was later declined for a release from his contract with WWE. He later made a Twitter post saying that the rumors were true and he doesn't know what the future holds, but he wants to make his dreams come true, and he thanks everybody for giving him so much support these last few days. And we've kind of mentioned before how glaring his absence felt within WWE, and how his relationship with Charlotte should probably carry some kind of cachet with the company and his placement therein. But, what do you guys think this means for his future? We've seen a few people like Mike Bennett ask for the release and go on to do nothing. The Revival requested their release, Brody Lee as well. I believe the Revival were released. I don't believe Brody Lee was. Shawn Spears was released. But now that all these people have gone to AEW, and that's what Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer reported, that WWE did not want to give him his release because they're not into handing talent to AEW.
So that was the point I was going to make, is that the climate has been very different on a lot of these. So at first, before COVID happened and all of the massive budget cuts that the WWE wanted to make so that they can have the most profitable year ever, they were not going to let anybody go. They didn't let anyone even remotely think about getting out of their contracts. And then later, when they were trying to make profits, they let people go, and inevitably some of them went to AEW.
Yeah.
Some of them did other things, but some of them went to AEW. And so now we're in a weird spot again where they want to be more respectful of the threat that AEW presents, so they may or may not do that. But all honesty, the political winds right here would say Andrade leaves WWE tomorrow. He goes to ROH.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Would he really go to AEW, or would AEW be interested in him? Because in all
sure
honesty,
they would be.
Yeah, I think they could do something with him, but AEW is already pretty stacked, and thinking about how they would utilize him and what that meant, I just don't think they have enough room for him and what he would want to do too. So I absolutely agree. He wouldn't go to AEW. We would see him in Ring of Honor first.
Absolutely. His family's there. That's where he's going to want to be. And the Ingobernables are there. He's Ingobernable por vida. That's where he's got to be.
Well, that was the, I wasn't thinking necessarily that AEW wouldn't do enough with him. I was thinking more, ROH has a spot for him that is just ready and
well, and that's the thing. I think
AEW
doesn't have that because and we'll talk more about it this later on, but they don't. Even though they have great lucha talent, think about it. They just brought Christian Cage on. They're still. They're still kind of figuring out what to do with the people they have on their roster. And so bringing in someone that new, you wonder, what is that going to look like? I would have loved, and we saw this sometimes, if he would just go back to NXT,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's on the table for him, but we've seen it with Finn Balor. We saw it with Breezango. We saw it with a few people who were able to go back to NXT, and why not? Obviously there's some already written storyline in there if there's any way to get him with Legado, but at the same time, he's he could have a really great program there and do some great work and still be with, be signed with WWE.
So there is a big rumored why not as to NXT, which is that WWE has a soft policy about people with partners inside the company working in the same brand. So that would be going against that policy.
But it's also Charlotte Flair. She makes up literally she does what she wants. She sets this shit up. So
I'm not discounting that Charlotte could have the stroke to make it happen if she wanted it to.
Well, also
but at the
they're
same
filming
time,
everything in Florida anyways. Like at this point, they're not going to. At least.
You're right. It's barely an excuse. That is the one thing that's.
And that could make sense, or maybe too, like they don't grant everyone's. Not only they don't grant people's requests to be released, they're not going to grant everyone's request to go to NXT either.
There's probably dozens of people that are just we aren't even seeing on most of the time, or we're only seeing on main event that would jump to the chance to go to NXT if all they had to do was ask. So yeah.
Well, and honestly, like at this point, I don't know after asking for his release if they would even give him any kind of push, because historically, kind of once you ask, that's when they, the Revival asked, and that's when they started getting into the peeing on the jackets and all that stuff. Like it got weird.
Those weird outfits they were going to put on in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I just don't know what I see happening. I think Charlotte, and not just Charlotte, but Ric Flair, have enough cachet, and that they could make sure he gets the rub where it doesn't affect him. But at the same time, if they had that much stroke with Vince and the company, why aren't they getting him on TV?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just don't know. I'd like to see what comes of it. I did some research. He signed his contract in 2015 with WWE, had his debut match in January 2016, and so nobody really knows how long his contract is or how soon he is towards release, but it's going to be interesting in the next week or maybe a couple of weeks to see what happens. And also I want to commend him for his refreshing honesty. You see so many people, like a rumor comes out and they shit all over it like it's not true. We saw that with Dustin Rhodes when he left WWE's like, if you think I'm going to AEW, you're stupid. Well, he went to AEW.
Yeah.
So
how stupid are we, really?
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But also his honesty and that's plays into it in a big way. I think is going to be interesting as well. Because he just came right out. Yeah, the rumors are true. I asked for my release. Thanks for your support. We'll see what happens. I mean, that was kind of the gist of it. Yeah. And that is so refreshing and such a nice change. But also the honest discourse is really interesting between him and the fans. And I think that wherever he goes, the fans will follow now, regardless.
Absolutely. But so I just want to put this in perspective on my perception of his character. He was an ingobernable first, and that honesty goes with that whole attitude and mindset that I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to worry about the politics. I'm not going to worry about who I might rub the wrong way. I'm just going to say that what actually is going on in my life and just be done with it. But to your point, that is part of why ingobernables are such a popular faction, because they do that either in the rules of the sport or outside the rules of the sport, and it draws attention to them in a unique way, and people are drawn to that. So, I mean, that's why I love the heck out of them.
Absolutely. And maybe it's also in a way to get WWE to cave, the fact that sometimes, people won't release that information. If he's open to it, and then there's this flurry of, discourse from fans or other people in the business that says, just let him go. If you're not using him, maybe eventually some of that pressure will get to WWE and they say, fine. Enough is enough. If you're not happy here and we don't want to use you, and especially if maybe they find and if he talk about honesty, does say, I'm not going to go with AEW. I am going to go to Ring of Honor. Then maybe they'd be more inclined to let him go.
Yeah, I
never
hope.
tell.
Yeah,
I
I hope
don't.
it starts something. Maybe
Mhm.
just enough people to either have to use him or lose him.
Yes.
Like that's I guess that's probably his most hoped for outcome, but mine too. Like I'd love to see him anywhere. I mean, he's too talented to not be wrestling all the time, not be on TV. Like, we'll touch on some of his La Sombra stuff later, but yeah, I mean, this was La Sombra. Like, people forget he was like the #1 money draw for a while in Mexico,
and big in Japan. Like,
yes,
he's a true international draw.
Yep.
Which just makes it more shameful that WWE couldn't find two stones to rub together with him. I mean, just seriously.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned AEW. We have already a few times, just in this early broadcast. So, Dusty, a really packed week with AEW.
Yeah, it was. And we'll be trying something new for the next couple weeks at least with the introduction of Dark Elevation. I'm going to start highlighting the best/most relevant match from each Dark show. And if you have any strong opinions on that, good or bad, or the difference, just write in and let us know. But first up, we had Dark Elevation. And in our very first Dark Elevation match ever, we had Danny Limelight versus Jungle Boy. You would think that this would be like a barn burner, but you would be wrong. The commentary never addressed the history between the two or their previous omnipresence on the West Coast scene. I know. And then, despite all of that, like the talent that they are, it never had a good rhythm. It felt like we were waiting to kind of watch them get all their stuff in before Jungle Boy got to win. And that's exactly what happened. And there's just been, this match had some of it too, there's just been too much visible cooperation in AEW lately. And the suspension of disbelief suffers as a result. It's been all over Dark. This week, Luchasaurus's match was terrible. Last week there was some spots with Pentagon that were like that. And I don't know. It's just not something I'm a fan of. And I'm also not a huge fan of Paul White on commentary either. I'm willing to give him a chance. This is a new role for him. Yeah. With Tony at his side, I think he'll be pretty okay. But I don't know why they didn't just bring back Veda Scott. I guess they signed Big Show and had to use him. But Veda Scott was an awesome announcer, and they could use her for this. And
she is accepting, I just saw on social media, she is accepting bookings for both commentary and wrestling for May. So think about that, AEW.
Yes.
No, I'm with you on this. That was my notes on I was like, okay, let's see what Paul can do. And he's not bad, but he's not.
Yeah, he's not the caliber of talent they've had before.
He might be able to grow into it. Other people who know him personally have said that he's an entertaining and engaging guy to talk to, and he just needs to be able to relax a little more. So maybe as he does the show a little more, he'll do that. But I mean, then again, if you get too relaxed, you turn into Taz and Excalibur, just saying totally inside stuff that only the two of them would get. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, but I would love to see them, if not bring in like Veda Scott, maybe a third person who rotates. We could see people like Ricky Starks, Miro, people like that could come in and commentate for a week, and that would be a reason to tune in as well. It could play into some of the feuds. So hopefully we'll see some advancement there on the commentary team. Lots of options for them. Hopefully they'll take advantage of them. And then Tuesday Night Dark, our first highlight was Chaos Project defeated Fuego del Sol and Jake St. Patrick. If you thought the luck of the Irish was with Fuego this week because he had a partner named St. Patrick the day before St. Patrick's Day, you were wrong. The Chaos Project was in top form for this match. It was just a slightly extended squash match with Luther and Serpentico picking up the win in just under 3 minutes with the creeping death finisher. And I also want to give honorable mention to 10 from the Dark Order versus Jack Evans. This was a good back and forth match, and Helico got involved late in the match to help Evans kind of grab some advantage before 10 was able to kick out of Evans' Phoenix Splash. He locked in the full Nelson and got the win just after 10 minutes, which was nice. But what we didn't notice was during the Phoenix Splash, he took a shot to the nose or mouth. He was bleeding profusely afterwards.
Pretty bad, yeah.
But the image became kind of viral, not necessarily iconic, but viral, I guess. It was an incredible image. And so hopefully, maybe the start of something for 10 as well. It'd be interesting to see what comes of that. And then we have Wednesday Night Dynamite, and this is where the magic really happens. But not yet. First up, we had Cody Rhodes with Arn Anderson versus Penta El Zero Miedo. This was a really good match with a really terrible finish, in my opinion. Penta started out by kicking the crap out of Cody before he could even get his shirt off, and he just out-charisma'd Cody the entire match. He was putting on St. Patrick's Day hats from the crowd, and then he'd kick Cody. He'd throw up the Cerro Miedo hand. It was just awesome. He was also a strategist in the match. He really worked Cody's arm that he had already injured. He eventually snapped the arm with a vicious arm bar. But then Cody gets a quick roll-up with both arms and gets a count. Hashtag LOL Cody wins.
Oh, my God. Oh.
It was so bad, right?
Yeah.
Like
the way that you just did that just, re-traumatized me. Like, I watched this match, and I just started screaming terrible things at Cody through the screen because it just felt like Cody, that felt like I'm the boss, I'm gonna win anyway because of the way they did that. And
I'm Dusty's son and I'm the boss.
Exactly. All of the things. Like, I don't think that helps his reputation, Like, really the only person that I think he's really put over and helped build is Darby Allin. And so, and that's been in a year, of AEW's existence. The fact that he really hasn't lost, because I would argue that MJF was already pretty made. And even then, he ultimately won that feud. So the fact that we go through this again to just have him win, I just don't get it.
Well, and then there's the other side of this too. Not only did you have that, but you devalued Pentagon's big move, the one that made him famous in the United States. Like that move should be super protected right now. If he hits that arm should be dead. Cody should have done it if he still wanted to have his glory and have a roll-up win. It could have been a one-armed schoolboy.
Yeah.
He didn't have to use both. And then he didn't even need to win the match, but because he got beat down afterwards, so could have just started the beat down to end the match, and then he could have had his moment of I didn't lose. Mm-hmm. I'm still the proud warrior, and they could have still gotten to where they were at without devaluing Pentagon whatsoever. But because he needed to have that no-sell, two-armed roll-up win, he made Penta look like an idiot. And yeah, exactly. and it just was not a good ending. And like, Penta had kind of led the match up to that point. You know, he was the obvious, like, if you were going to pick a winner, he was obvious. And as Brendan mentioned, he attacked Cody after the match, and Dustin Rhodes and the Gun Club ran in to save what was left of Cody's mangled arm, and Penta walked away with panache, and he left through the face tunnel, which is kind of interesting. We saw that with Sammy when he broke away from the inner circle. He left through the face tunnel, and so we're kind of seeing heel Cody too a little bit, I think. That's the other thing. They don't know what to do with Cody. Like, they do this super babyface stuff, like his gender reveal and all that. Like, that was dumb. And
this is not a place for it. Like, you don't take up airtime to do your family announcement. I'm just saying, like, why it, and I know they made some amends for it. Why are you spending airtime on your baby announcement when you can be giving somebody a promo, or you could be adding that to a match, especially in your women's division? Don't start with me, AEW, because I will come for you.
Yeah.
I've been recently called out by some of my friends as being a little soft on AEW's bad stuff, and then this week they went over the line for me, and it's hard for me to maintain the positive attitude that I try and have while we're on the air.
Well, especially with somebody like Pentagon, who is so special and such a unique talent. Like, they really dropped the ball on that one. But the next relevant match we had was Rey Fénix versus Angelico. This was an amazing match. Fénix and Angelico have only faced off once before in a singles match in England. So this was the first time on this continent / hemisphere or on television that you could kind of see them together, and the meshing of their individual styles was incredible. They both really elevated their opponent in the match, and Fénix's ability to adapt to any style and Angelico's athleticism really brought together the best of Fénix's aerial work and Angelico's Iveo submission style. So we got to see, don't want to forget, we did see some interesting Rudo work with Angelico pulling away Fénix's K-tape on his back.
Yeah.
But we got to see Fénix pick up the win with a pile driver. But this easily could have been Angelico's match too. Inventive, unique. I loved it. Immediately afterwards, when Fénix got the win, Pac slid into the ring to Mad Dog Angelico and talk some trash. It was fantastic. The Fénix Pac pairing is just sublime. Like, they have really figured it out with these guys, and I love it. But then we had our main event, what everybody was excited for, the unsanctioned lights out match, anything goes, between Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, with Rebel versus Thunder Rosa. I cannot say enough good things about this match. It's easily one of the best matches to ever air on TV. It's hard to say what the best ever is because tastes change, contexts change, but I feel confident saying this was the best women's match I have ever seen and the best AEW television match I've ever seen. It was bloody, it was a violent fight, and these are two of the toughest and most badass women on the planet. You really have to see this match. They went toe-to-toe. They seized the opportunity to show the entire world that they are truly the best at what they do. Man or woman, nobody on the roster can touch these two. I mean, it was so good. I could have never imagined when this storyline started a few months ago that it would culminate in a match like this, main eventing Dynamite. And after the match, Rosa gets the win, by the way, with a Thunder Driver. Stunning, bloody, terrible. I mean,
after so many awful things happen to both of them.
Thumbtacks. She power bombs Britt Baker onto the thumbtacks. Britt gets the bag of thumbtacks out for her, so Britt takes the power bomb on him. But then Rosa takes a submission on the thumbtacks, the lockjaw. It was insane.
Yeah.
You really have to see it. But after the match, Britt Baker said Rosa's mistake was in leaving her alive. But Rosa said she left her alive so that she could be the face of the women's division, because Rosa wants to be the face of wrestling, period. And so good. And
I do want to say there are some technical flaws with this match. So you will, if you are listening to this outside of this show, you will hear some people that probably have some less than complimentary things to say. But I only really noticed and cared about those on my second watch through of this match.
Exactly. I didn't notice live.
I think that's also part of the beauty, is that when a match captures your attention and imagination and it pulls at you kind of emotionally. And I feel like that, at least for me, some people are technical,
Yep. And they're the ones that are going to have all that stuff.
And they're going to have one. Also because of these types of matches are not, that's just not their strong suit anyways. Anyone who's looking for a technical masterpiece, this is not going to be, AEW is not your place to do that at this point in the women's division. If you don't know this by now, and it's not to say that there's not potential, but I think too what it really did is help solidify the legitimacy of having a strong women's division and something that's going to be unique. We've not seen this in NXT. We're not going to see this in any other women's division. And that is something too AEW has kind of stated that they do think is their strong suit, is violent matches. And if they can actually do that within both the men's division and women's division, that is something that's very unique. Now, you don't need to do it all the time, of course. It's the rarity of it is going to make it that much special. But I think the fact that we've seen this program between these two for for months now, that just projected really well in this match. And you made it like you wanted to care. You cared about it.
You did. There was an emotional connection with the match. Yeah. And at this point, I didn't even care who won. I just wanted to see it. I love Britt Baker. I love Thunder Rosa. I was happy to see Thunder Rosa win. I mean, she looks like a superhero out there. She had some amazing green gear for St. Patrick's Day that looked like dragon scales. I mean, it was just incredible. And the visual of the blood mixing with her face paint we know Britt Baker's a bleeder, but when Thunder Rosa started to bleed, she just looked like something on the next level. If she was coming at you, you would run. You wouldn't just get out of the way, you would run. And she just looks so, not to kind of, no pun intended with the show, but she just looked so dynamite last night. Like everything she did was so crisp and clean and explosive. And we all know Thunder Rosa's good. We all know Britt Baker's good. But the way they have advanced in this feud is shocking. We've mentioned it before. Thunder Rosa has no plateau. She just keeps going up and up and up. And her talent seems to know no bounds. And I don't necessarily know that this is the end of their feud. I think it is for a while due to the strength of the match, but I think because of that, we're always going to think of them, like in the way you think of like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man. They're always tied in a way. And
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Steamboat and Flair.
Yes, just like that. I think they're going to be tied together permanently because of this match. It was so good and so unexpected and beyond anything. And like you said, AEW has a reputation for putting on these violent matches, but I don't know that an American company has ever put on a women's match. At least the WWE, WCW, the major companies have put on a match this violent for the women. Like, it was really unique in its placement in American wrestling.
I'm fairly certain that was Rosa's intention, is to really take that next, because she said that so many times. She said that in the interview going into this match, is that she came to this company to elevate women's wrestling.
Yeah.
And then she ever.
Which is why I'm more than willing to forgive some of the technical issues that were there, because I was emotionally invested in the match. I was.
Oh, me too.
It is going to be a memorable match. It's coming off of the heels of a very disappointing pay-per-view finish. So, it may be elevated in a lot of people's estimation just because it was not that kind of a failure either. So,
it's singular. It stands alone. It's really its own thing, which is, especially this far into the years of professional wrestling on TV, to be able to come up with something unique and emotional and exciting and impactful that we're still talking about with this much excitement is a big deal. And not only that, but it was the first women's main event. Like they had. You hear about people grabbing the brass ring. Well, they really grabbed the brass ring. They knocked it out of the park with this match. And they're never going to be the same. Like, they're always going to be top of the card people now. Like, there's no, the pinnacle of women's wrestling at this point right now for me is Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa.
So you can get the results of AEW and WWE from this week at luchacentral.com. You can also find results for MLW this week on luchacentral.com. And, I was talking with Dusty and Brendan on how to describe this week's MLW, because it was not one of my favorite episodes, which is surprising to me, because MLW, since they've returned, have been consistently great. The featuring of Lucha Libre talent, but also the mix of other talent, has been really, really well. Their storytelling has been solid. this week just missed the mark. Really, the show began with Los Parks, Injustice, and Contra battling outside of the arena, and that leads to what we'll see in the main event. But the first match of the night was really the best. Brian Pillman Jr. was revealed as the person who's accepted Lio Rush's challenge for the middleweight championship. And it's great to see Brian Pillman Jr. back on MLW. At one point, it was revealed that, he was trying to leave MLW to get on and be signed with AEW. That still hasn't quite panned out. So fortunately, it looks like he could still work for both companies. And it's probably to his benefit because we've talked about it. AEW now, even though they have Elevate and they still have Dark, it's really, really stacked. It's a challenge to get to a point where you can get noticed and be regularly seen on Dynamite. So
and have a spot,
have that spot. So I feel
in
like,
a single spot too, like he does in MLW. It's important to have that. He's more of a tag team guy in AEW.
Yes. Yeah, so to have that, it was a great match as far as technicality. A beautiful acai moonsault from Lio Rush that he did on the outside of the ring, and of course Lio wins with the final hour frog splash. And I'd love to see them again. Maybe this is a continuous open challenge that Lio Rush has. But I wouldn't be mad at seeing them do this again and just continuing to see Brian Pillman Jr. On the MLW roster. Up next, we had Mil Muertes versus Pero. So Pero came back on board just recently, and his beef with Mil Muertes is based off of what happened last week when Mil pretty much destroyed Hammerstone, and he still has the openweight championship. Mil stole this from Hammerstone after his match with LA Park. And so my analogy for this is, the upcoming movie King Kong versus Godzilla. And if you're looking for a wrestling equivalent of that, it is this. Two huge men facing each other. And the match was only like less than 5 minutes, which in reality, that's all you could really do for two men of this size. Mil hit a bunch of punches to the face. The first pinfall was one where he didn't even really try to pin Pero. It was more, having him down and hitting him, and wailing on him. Pero, though, did hit a great senton, on Mil, and there was this attempt at a power slam that almost wasn't, where because of the size of Pero, I think it was pretty hard for Mil to hold on and do that power slam. But Mil did get the win with his finishing maneuver, Straight to Hell. And yeah, I was really just watching this match thinking this is what King Kong versus Godzilla is going to look like. I mean,
to just change the wrestling ring to be an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, I mean, really, a lot of their action, too, was outside of the ring. If I would love to see them in, like, maybe a no DQ, falls count anywhere type of match, like, that's what they need. They cannot, no, I don't want to say function, because they're both great wrestlers, but those two men of that size, you cannot have a normal wrestling match. Maybe that's what they'll allude to one day, or that's just something they could do in the future, but
well, they're doing all of this tie to Lucha Underground. And when you think of Mil Muertes matches in Lucha Underground, you're usually thinking of the casket matches. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping we get something of that kind of presentation, that level. Yeah. At some point. I mean, Pero is probably not the guy they're going to do it with. He's a good big guy, but he's not a big name. And
that's what I think this was trying to establish, is Pero doing that in defense of Hammerstone. So they're trying to build him up as a babyface against someone who is very uniquely and obviously brutal in this case. So I get it, but it also, man, like anyways, it's hard for me to put into words. Speaking of hard for me to put into words, the main event. So I've come up with the formula of how I want to talk about this, because the main event was originally supposed to be Los Parks versus Injustice for the tag titles. However, due to the events earlier on, MLW management had decided to make this a triple threat between Los Parks, Injustice, and Contra. So that, though, I'm going to use a compliment sandwich for this. Because the storytelling in this has been really great, because you've seen Injustice and Contra battling it out. Then you have Contra and Los Parks. And then Injustice gets thrown into this. And so it's been a really good way of melding these teams together in storytelling, where their paths cross and they interact. Not always, but enough where they can kind of mix things up. And this is even like a long-standing storyline between Injustice and Contra from, almost a year ago. So yep. I respect the storytelling. The match itself was not well executed. And I would say a lot more from Los Parks. Like, for some reason, things just did not click. And so I think there was things off with timing. I think overall there was a lot more chemistry between Injustice and Contra, and those interactions I liked a little bit more, but I was not a fan of this match. The other side of it, though, is that when Los Parks came to the ring, LA Park brought in some old school WCW La Parka moves and just hit everybody with a chair. Literally everybody in the ring got hit with a chair, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the
that was
back.
The chairman, man. That was a mark out moment. Like, if you're a Lucha fan and you just, man, if you love, 90s La Parka, just watch that clip. That's all you really need from this match. Ultimately, LA Park got the win for his team by doing the big spear on Jordan Oliver. He's the one who took the pin for this. So Los Parks are still your MLW Tag Team Champions. And we'll see what continues of this program. It looks like they're going to continue with this for the foreseeable future. They do have their big event happening, their major free pay-per-view. It's not even pay-per-view, but their larger, event happening in a few weeks. So, yeah, I mean,
free for view? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a 2-hour card with big matches.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. But again, I mean, if you're looking at, trying to evaluate what you watched this week, for MLW, the first match and LA Park with the chair. Those are my recommendations.
Yes.
So there we go. That is this week's MLW. Again, you can find the results on luchacentral.com. Up next, Brendan, you have some updates from us from Mass Republic, including Expo Lucha that's happening this Saturday.
Well, that's all about Expo Lucha this week. That's what I've got. They have just been dropping tons and tons of content. They announced the Bachelorette for your segment. So what's the official name on your segment?
It is the Ring of Love dating game.
There we go. The Ring of Love dating game. Lizzie X Lucha from the Twitterverse, apparently, is going to be the Bachelorette. I've seen her profile on Twitter. It's going to be a fun show. They're now saying 3 bachelors instead of 4 bachelors. So, maybe that's a time constraint, or maybe that's card will vary, but I am still very
card subject to change, even on dating games.
If wrestling's involved, the card is subject to change.
Card is always subject to change.
And then they've released previews of the segments that are going to happen, including, since we just talked about MLW, including the Eat Like a Luchador preview, where Selena does a little live cooking segment with her mama for her segment on there. And then just a little shout out to our co-broadcasters here. Apparently, Meatloaf from the Mass Mats and Mayhem has a recipe in there somewhere too, cause,
excellent.
Yeah, right? Very cool stuff. And then, we know that there's some fantastic pictures in it because we were talking with Jerry about that. So I'm really excited to see the previews that are going to come out on Saturday for that. They released more, info on the, at Expo Lucha shop. They're going to have a number of pieces that are going to feature that luchadora that was done by Rockets Are Red as part of this year's poster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's a very cool image. So, but that stuff is only going to be available during the Expo Lucha shop. So it sounds like it's going to be a 48-hour shop from 10 a.m. on Saturday morning when the show goes live until Monday morning. So, watch the show or watch our roundup of the show. Figure out what you want to buy and get in there and make a surgical strike, because your window of opportunity is not going to be open for very long. They also have been previewing Vampiro and Cassandro's interviews. Mass Mets and Mayhem has the Vampiro interview, and Denise Salcedo has the Cassandro one. Both are going to be interesting in vastly different ways.
Yes, very, very different. Previews are up on Mass Republic's social media pages, and also I know Mass Mets and Mayhem has a preview on their page. That just says it enough. If you just look at those two, it gives you just exactly what you need to know.
And the one that intrigued me is there's just a little picture that says what the WTH is NFT. And I don't know. I mean, I have a solid idea that WTH is asking what the heck is, but I have no idea what NFT is. They said they'll tell us on Saturday. So, I mean, I was already going to tune in, so you didn't need to hook me, guys. Why did you do this to me? That was the most intriguing of the promos that I saw. Not because I'm not interested in the other stuff, but because I have no idea what that is. That merch? Is that a wrestler? That'd be great if it was a wrestler, and this is just how they're going to introduce a new Legend of Lucha Libre, but I have no idea.
No.
I mean, yeah. So we're going to have to tune in on Saturday. We have plans to do a wrap-up show like we did last year. So, do keep your eye on, are we officially going to be on the Lucha Central YouTube page, or is that,
Still figuring that out. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Still have to coordinate on the logistical side of that. But we are working on trying to be on the official Lucha Central YouTube page when we do our roundup live. Either way, we'll also have a recording of it that will become that will be available a few days afterwards. That will be on the Lucha Central YouTube page regardless, but the live version we're still coordinating.
Okay. Didn't mean to put you on the spot on the air there, but yeah, so we should be having some good stuff going on. Definitely, I will be paying attention to a lot of the merch releases. So if you have weird questions about the merch, I'm your guy. We'll do socials later, but you can certainly tune into me. They will be announcing the winners of all the big contests. I'm super excited to see that, because the last time's entries were fantastic, and they've only had more time to come up with ideas for costumes, action figures, custom toys. I don't even remember what the fourth one is anymore, because those are my big three. So we will have a lot of that going on. Expo Lucha this weekend. I mean, it's going to be huge. Huge.
Yes, Expo Lucha this Saturday, March 20th, starts at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's why we mentioned those time zones for you. Make sure you know what time zone you're in, because all of the social media and poster information states 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Which means I'm the only one that has to get up early on this podcast.
Yeah, that's noon my time.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we're on the same time zone, Brendan.
That's right. We are in the same time zone.
Yeah,
now.
we're on the same time zone now. But yeah, I'll still be awake. Still got to. All right, this week in NXT, we start off the show with Finn Balor calling out Karrion Kross, and they have a confrontation in the ring. Of course, Scarlett accompanying Karrion. They are interrupted by Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, who comes out and pretty much tell Balor that he should be facing Pete Dunne and not Karrion Kross. However, in the mystic ways that Scarlett has and does, she pretty much convinces Oni and Danny to face Karrion and Finn Balor for the NXT tag titles, which they agree to. I don't think anybody could say no to Scarlett, so that does not surprise me. But we see that later. They tried, but at the same time, like, no, like, talk about a bruja. Like, she definitely has that vibe coming off in only the best ways.
Yes.
We'll see that later on in the show. But we had Breezango versus Legado del Fantasma, Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza. And I really like how this match started as far as commentary really playing up the kind of the long-standing and good rigor and trying to come up with the words to it, but just like the legacy of Breezango with, mentioning how Fandango won, his first match at WrestleMania, about Tyler Breeze facing Jushin Thunder Liger, and just how they are very experienced as well. And you get that in just the first few minutes, because Fandango really eludes Raul Mendoza in all of his fast efforts to try and take control of the match early on. However, it was also really nice to see Legado del Fantasma get one up on them, with exactly their in-ring maneuvers and really no interference from Santos Escobar. Because that's something that we're very used to with them. But really he didn't have any involvement in this match. But there was, some strategic elements to this with a blind tag that allowed Legado del Fantasma to hit their finisher for the win. So a great win for them. But really this all set up Jordan Devlin coming out to confront Santos Escobar. After the match, Santos Escobar used one of the commentary headsets to call out Jordan Devlin. He says, "I know you're here. Where are you? Come out." Jordan Devlin came out and confronted him in the ring, and pretty much they called each other out. Who is the false cruiserweight champion? Devlin pretty much saying, your reign is done, but the true champion is here. Escobar saying, you only have that belt because everyone forgot about you. And Santos is the one who called out Jordan and said, let's set this up for NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver. So the challenge was set. Devlin responded by a pretty big headbutt and suplex before he left, and you saw a lot of blood coming from Santos' mouth, so something about it hit hard. So it is not official yet, as far as I know, or just haven't seen it yet on social media. But
Mr. Regal hasn't announced.
Yes, once Regal announced it, then we know it's official, but it's something that many fans have already been thinking about, that WWE has alluded to for quite some time. We are going to see Jordan Devlin versus Santos Escobar for a unified cruiserweight championship.
That would be the MMA terminology.
Yes.
It would be the unified version of the belt, or the
So that is going to be super exciting. Again, men with two very distinct, different styles of wrestling, but showcases the best that the cruiserweight division has to offer. So, my hope with this is that Santos wins, and not only because we favor, luchadors, but I do feel like, his career has just been fantastic and just shot through the roof, as cruiserweight champion. Why stop now? Unless they're really going to be pushing Jordan Devlin on both NXT and NXT UK, which, from the heavy breathing of Brendan, sounds like that's a risky move. How about you just don't? And
right? Yeah, see, Miranda knows. She knows what I'm thinking about, and I'm not even going to say it out loud, but pushing Devlin just is not a good move. But it's the WWE, so I'm expecting it.
Yeah. So, And Legado still has a lot of great work that they can do in NXT as far as having that leadership from Santos. And you have, say like the Undisputed Era is no more. Why don't you have now room for another immensely strong faction to flourish there?
At the top of the card.
Yeah. Let him do it, unless this only frees up Santos to go after the NXT championship. And we'll get into that in a second. But even then, you may not need to do that. He can still go after the NXT championship as Cruiserweight champion. Before we get into tonight's the night's main event, we did see Zoe Stark face Dakota Kai. And that itself was a great match, a great outing by Zoe Stark. Dakota Kai won. After the match, Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai had their eye on Zoe, but Io Shirai came out kind of to make a save, kind of to make a challenge, where she came out with a contract in which she shoved into Raquel Gonzalez's face, looking like it's a contract for NXT Stand and Deliver for them to face each other for the NXT Women's Championship. And so, and seeing them stand in the ring together, seeing the vastly different size between these two women makes it all that much more interesting.
Yes.
Because of the fact that they've really built up Io as a fighting champion. One of the longest reigns in NXT, has faced everyone on the roster, but has not faced anyone like Raquel. And the momentum that she's built in all of her matches and everything that she's done over the past year is showing that Raquel's going to be the biggest challenge of Io's career. And so it makes me, in particular, very, very excited to see this. But also you have, again, two vastly different Lucha Libre backgrounds, with Io being more of the high flyer and Raquel being the brawler. So you're going to see that really play out when they face each other in the ring. Speaking of them, though, next week on NXT, we are going to see Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai team up to face Io Shirai and Zoe Stark. This is also fantastic for Zoe, who's getting such an amazing opportunity. And she has a outstanding quality of work. So just as someone, again, as Brandon and I do, always give the rub to the West Coast talent who make it, because they don't always get the shine. But the fact that Zoe Stark has already made this big, pretty much the biggest storyline on the NXT women's division and has been in there, is going to be great. If anything, if we see Raquel Gonzalez win the NXT Women's Championship after she has, a rematch with a rematch with Io, it is very easy to predict that Zoe could be one of her first challengers. That's just me, storybooking all of this. But don't come at me, because I like my fantasy booking. Also next week, we're going to see the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions, Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon, defend their tag titles as well. But the main event. So you had Karrion Kross and Finn Balor teaming up to face Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. Really, this was just a way to continue to set up this storyline between Karrion and Finn Balor. It was announced this week. We are officially going to get them facing each other at NXT Stand and Deliver. Of course, they did not win, because, they're not doing that. But Karrion Kross, afterwards, got the best of Finn Balor. They lost the match kind of due to some miscommunication. And so it was a great way to build up and continue the storyline for a week. It only adds to, the complexity, I think, of their dynamic and both their personalities and just, how they're going to come into this. It will be a very tall order for Finn Balor. And, Karrion Kross is coming back after the title he never lost. So I imagine that this is going to be something that is going to be a showstopper at Stand and Deliver. But again, another fantastic episode of NXT. I mentioned you got some matches already lined up for next week, and there's always more. And of course, the results you can find on luchacentral.com. Up next, Dusty, why don't you let us know what else, well, not what else, but I had something I was going into, but I lost it for a second. But Dusty, why don't you take us into this week in Lucha Libre history?
Well, yeah, that's right. It's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for This Day in Lucha Libre History by Pep Carrera for information, birth dates, anniversaries, match of the day, amazing videos, and even more. It's all about Lucha Libre, and it's all free. And it's at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. This week I chose March the 19th, 2010, when La Sombra won El Felino's mask in a mask versus mask match at the 15th edition of the CMLL Dos Leyendas show at the Arena Mexico in Mexico City. In this way, we now know the identity of Jorge Luis Casas Ruiz. This was a Dos Leyendas show which pays homage to Salvador Luderoth and this year Rey Mendoza. The Dos Leyendas shows always honor EMLL/CMLL founder Salvador Luderoth, but for the first few years they honored Santo, and then after Io del Santo left CMLL, it became a way to honor a different legend every year, which made it kind of a cool and unique event. The main event of this Dos Leyendas show was a Revelos Suicida tag team match, a suicide team basically match, where the first two wrestlers to be pinned in the match were then forced to face off against each other in an apuestas match with their masks on the line. The match started out in a four-way with Mystico and La Sombra facing off against Volador Jr. and El Felino. La Sombra and El Felino were both pinned during the match, which led to La Sombra defeating El Felino, and after his loss, El Felino unmasked and revealed his real name, Jorge Luis Casas Ruiz, and of course, La Sombra later became known as Cien Almas, so, Andrade. And so we got nice to remember, a nice little refresher this week of what he used to do and what he's capable of. I've mentioned it before, but it's like somebody really talented in a band. He's better than what they're giving him, and he needs to go on beyond that, but he won't ever get any better with the people he's playing with now. So he's just got to move on and do something else, and hopefully we'll get to see that soon. What did you pick this week, Brendan?
This week I chose March 17th, 2002, when Connect won the 6th edition of Lucha Libre AAA's Rey de Reyes tournament. So I just want to preface this. I got excited because this was a video that I could watch of this match. I always love Rey de Reyes. And people who know me know that I'm very interested in Connect's very kind of storied career where he was kind of a national hero for a while. But this was 2002, so this was well after that. He did wind up winning this one, but the story seemed to be more about Cibernetico being in this match. I'm getting a tiny bit ahead of myself here. So he won the Rey de Reyes tournament after beating Pirata Morgan, Cibernetico and Octagon. This was in Jalisco. The match started off, everybody was kind of brawling. Connect was very featured, but not, Cibernetico was kind of where all the fans' attention was at. And then as a couple people got eliminated, people from the back started coming out. I missed the names of some of the people, but it sounded like one of the Peña family was involved. And then Albrije was there. And they distracted Cibernetico, allowing Connect to win. So you get a very brief celebration of him in ring. So the part that I actually got excited for, I'm like, oh, this will be an interesting note in Connect's career. Over and done with real fast. And the remaining 10 minutes of the video are people tormenting and or attacking Cibernetico. So very different story than what I expected going in. Still very interesting. Made me very interested in what was going on, why everybody was upset with Cibernetico. Went online and looked it up and realized it's largely because Cibernetico at that point in time was one of the most hated men in all of wrestling.
Yes.
And this was kind of a big payoff to that. And he went on a short hiatus, I believe, after this. I may have conflated a couple of stories there, but yeah, so it was very interesting. I went in expecting one thing and got another, which is a thing that I should expect more when I choose AAA matches from the early 2000s, because they were very good at that. They were very good at giving us bizarre, all over the place storylines. Like
They were, yeah.
yeah, Miranda's talked about several of the ones from the Apache family, and how they're kind of all over the place, and the story is crazy, and I should have gone in expecting something more like that. So that was my awkward segue to what did you pick this week, Miranda? Miranda?
Sorry, I was talking. My dogs were barking earlier, so I had to mute myself, and I forgot to unmute myself. So we're trying here. We're trying. I'm trying. I picked March 21st, 2014, and this is when Rush won Shocker's hair in a hair versus hair match. This was also at a Dos Leyendas show. This was the 19th edition of CMLL's Dos Leyendas show in Arena, Mexico. And the match itself was really, really good. A very technical match between Rush and Shocker. For me, it was, again, I always like to go a little bit more into the history and kind of how this sets up, or how it was set up, and what it meant for the future. So this kind of came together after Rush, La Máscara, and Titan lost the Trios Championships on February 18th to El Felino, Mr. Nebula, and Negro Casas. From there, Rush, Casas, and Shocker had agreed to do a three-way Apuestas match. But Casas wasn't able to do the match. He was forced out of it. So, and later on said he would face the winner of that. So that's when you had this one in particular. And this was his fourth Apuestas match win. And you kind of knew, knowing now, Rush and that, the beautiful pelo that he has, he ain't gonna be cutting it off. But I really liked this match, and even seeing Shocker at the end going into the crowd and having people kind of cut his hair, and just, that homage to it, was great. Now, not too long after this, Rush then, and at this point he was very heel in his run at CMLL. He ended up forming an alliance with La Sombra, and they both were rudos at the time, and started to call themselves the Técnicos Diferentes. That eventually evolved when La Máscara came in, and they were the Indesebrables, the Undesirables, that later evolved into Los Ingobernables. So this was just one step in that continuous journey into Los Ingobernables. But I feel like even then the crowd was very responsive to Rush. He wasn't even though he was a fairly big heel, wasn't super until the events after this.
No, but very much I agree. It was kind of, you could see the early foundations of who he would become.
Yes, and talk about, history. What would Lucha Libre and pro wrestling be without Los Ingobernables?
A lot less colorful.
Yes.
Yeah. They had worldwide impact. Their impact in New Japan and everything with Naito. That's still one of the most popular things going.
Yeah, totally agreed. Great. Well, that is this week in Lucha Libre history. Don't forget to check out this day in Lucha Libre history at luchacentral.com. But Brendan, why don't you let our listeners know what else they can find at luchacentral.com?
Well, if you're listening to this and you haven't been to luchacentral.com, it's really, really, really time to do it. luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. Place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. On top of all of this, it's free. There it is. That's the, if nothing else is going to sell you, that's the one. It's free. luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Up next, Dusty, you have some AAA news to share.
Yeah, we do. Just some quick news. AAA had previously announced that there would be Auto Luchas happening this weekend, March the 20th. There will be 2 shows that Saturday. Both will be recorded. One will be recorded for their television programming. One will be recorded for social media. But as of right now, that's only going to be in Mexico due to the lawsuit. But they also announced that 2 more shows would be held on April the 2nd and April the 9th. And the announcement literature says that they will be taped, but Lucha Blog and some others think that that might have been a misquote and that only this weekend show will be recorded. So we'll just have to see. There were no new updates since last time in regard to the AAA Lucha Libre Full Media Ventures lawsuit, but we'll keep you updated on where that goes as well.
Great.
I think Brendan now has some CMLL news.
Yeah, really, literally hot off the presses here. While we were recording this show, Lucha Central and reported that CMLL has announced the Arena Mexico 65th anniversary show will be on April 24th.
Wow.
So we don't know any other details on that. We don't know if it's going to be a streamed event or if it's going to be, I mean, I'm going to guess that there will be some sort of fan attendance because that's one of the things that they've been holding off on announcing it for. So, but that's what I know on that one. And this is an addition, since we're here talking about CMLL, they do have the iPay-per-view coming up on the 26th of this month. So right around the corner here. So you can watch that and, get yourself a little bit warmed up. That'll be the Copa Junior tournament that was supposed to be on Christmas. But the anniversary show, once again, has been announced for April 24th.
Exciting.
Make sure you check out luchacentral.com. Stay tuned for more information. And, of course, this show for more information.
Yeah.
Up next, we got a little bit of Impact Wrestling news. So this past Saturday was the Impact Plus Special Sacrifice, and some pretty big title changes that occurred during that event. First off, though, we did have Decay, the team of Crazy Steve and Black Taurus, defeat Reno Scum. I just love this clip of Crazy Steve doing a tilt-a-whirl splash with help from Black Taurus. It's awesome. And I just love this team of Crazy Steve and Black Taurus. So it seems like the company's high on them as well. Not much of a tag division for them to be in. We'll get to that in a second, but still a really, really fun match. And it's also great. I mean, when you could see teams like Reno Scum, who you don't get to see very often on air, and get to have a great match, hey, why not? But in championship news, Ace Austin defeated TJP to become the new X Division champion. And so this is, I'm happy with this. I think I said this on air last week that I would not be mad at another Ace Austin X Division championship run. And so we still do see some of that X Division contendership, rumbling after this, because of course TJP does have the first opportunity, but then you also have Chris Bay, Josh Alexander also vying for a chance at the new X Division champion. So I was happy with this result. A great match between the two. If you are a fan of, say, anything related to Lucha Libre, this is very similar in that. And of course TJP, has that background. Ace Austin is just phenomenal. So I highly recommend this match. Also in championship news, FinJuice became the new tag team champions, defeating the Good Brothers, which that I think for many people was a big surprise because FinJuice is on loan from New Japan. But they successfully defeated the Good Brothers and even retained the titles this past week on Tuesday's Impact show. And it's been speculated that FinJuice is going to take those tag titles back to Japan. Who knows, but that's a pretty big news. It does also clear up the Good Brothers to continue their weekly appearances on AEW. And that's a whole other topic I Don't have time to go over. That's a whole little mini rant that I have. But the big news coming out of Sacrifice is Rich Swann beat Moose to become the unified champion. So for those of you who may remember, may not know, Rich Swann is the Impact World Champion, but Moose had been the self-declared TNA Heavyweight Championship really since last summer. He had found this belt. He wanted a championship. He found it. He had taken ownership of it to the point where it was hard to ignore. He defended it. He invited people to matches, and to the point where Scott D'Amore reactivated this championship in order to have a unification match. And so the result of this match, though, is whoever won would then face Kenny Omega, AEW World Champion, in a title versus title match at Rebellion on April 24th. So Rich Swann won that match. Moose had also mentioned on social media he is planning to take some time off. Don't know if that was already planned or not, but we will now see Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega on April 24th in a title versus title match. Impact World Champion versus AEW World Champion. And that is going to be available on Fight TV, and that's congratulations Kenny Omega for becoming completing the Infinity Gauntlet. Because my thoughts already are Impact Wrestling is going to sacrifice Rich Swann to Kenny Omega. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I am allowing myself a little bit of optimism here. Maybe after hearing the interview spot, maybe they're actually going to do the underdog story. I don't, in my heart, believe it, but they are at least leaving the door open to that.
Yeah.
So.
And they should, because it should be a little bit more unpredictable. You should have a little bit more, maybe. And Rich Swann is a huge, huge underdog in this. I just hope to actually see Rich Swann on AEW television. That's been the problem.
Yep.
And my mini rant on this is that, AEW has gotten all the perks as far as that TV time every week, but they haven't really shared a whole lot of talent. They get to have the Good Brothers on loan for however much they want, and they don't have to sign them for a contract. And they've been able to kind of belittle Impact Wrestling in all of this. And so there hasn't been an exchange of talent to the level that would benefit both companies. And, to me, it feels like, as much as I want to be optimistic, they've set the storyline from day one. Kenny Omega wants to go around the world and collect titles. Why not now, especially because they unified 2 titles? So does they now pretty much saying Kenny Omega becomes the Impact World Champion and TNA Heavyweight Champion? I don't even know. But, yes, Rebellion, April 24th, so a little over a month away. We are going to probably get another Impact Plus event soon as well. And, of course, Impact is on Access TV every Tuesday. Up next, Brendan has this week and some updates on ROH.
Oh, man, ROH is still delivering pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
This week we had a little lighter on the Lucha content, but it still was good. We had a match with Flamita versus Flip. There's a little bit of storyline that was involved in this. All in all, it was a solid match. Flamita is a kind of underrepresented and underutilized all of the Lucha talent in ROH. So it was really nice to see he's getting there, because even though I think Rey Horus is the youngest of the Mexa squad, Flamita has kind of always just been, in American eyes, I should point out, the tag team partner of Bandito, and that not necessarily a standout singles wrestler in his own right, which is an unfortunate turn of events for a lot of people, because he's fantastic, and this match really worked. Flip working as a heel and being big enough to base Flamita just really made this match have a nice flow to it. A little less Lucha centric. You had Kenny King representing LFI, LFI. I put the wrong 3-letter abbreviation in my notes. I'm just going to leave it at that. And against Tony Deppen. This is one of the rare times where Kenny King gets to look like the big man. Sorry,
Very true.
Tony.
No, it is what it is. It's a fact.
It's and it was a decent match. King is a little more American West Coast than Lucha, so your mileage will vary if you are listening to the show on what your level of enjoyment for the actual match may be. It was very solid to me and very serviceable to the story. I always enjoy watching Deppen work. He's great at really putting emotion into a match that he's in, no matter if he's the face or the heel, and it's rare talent that it needs to be appreciated more. This ended kind of predictably with all of the LFI people in the ring beating on Tony Deppen, which brings out Brody King. And then Brody King eventually gets beat down as well. So they're kind of trying to allude to possible things that may happen in Rush's title defense future, because that was the last big defense he had was against Brody King. Brody King, for those of you who are keeping track of my conspiracy theories about the Pure division, is in no jeopardy of being a Pure wrestler in the near future. So I don't think that is where they're going with that. Mm-hmm. I'm not to say that Brody King couldn't do Pure wrestling if he wanted to, but you've got a giant monster man who likes to brawl. Why on earth would you
not
handcuff him?
I think that's a safe prediction. I think you're gonna be all right with that one, Brendan.
I mean, I do want to reestablish, because I am a huge Brody King fan, that he is lucha trained and he has the technical.
West Coast.
Yeah, he has the technical skills to do it, but that's not what people want to see him do.
No,
he's a big old hoss, and he can
just beat people up. He's great at
it. He's really great at that.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, we have some more stuff that has been announced for the anniversary show. And I don't remember what specifically had already been announced and what's new, so I'm just going to go over all the Lucha Central or the Lucha centric matches that are. So we've got Jay Lethal versus Rush for the world title. We've got the world television title with Tracy Hot Sauce Williams against Dragon Lee. We have the world tag team championships, which consists of Kenny King and Dragon Lee, against Tracy Williams and Rhett Titus. So we've got that double duty going on there. If you're a Dragon Lee fan, this is a big show for you. Huge show. And I mean, he's been doing some of his best work for like forever since going to LFI. So yeah. I am super excited to see him in two matches. The probability that one of those two titles gets taken by the Pure representatives seems a little higher at this point, since they're loading the card. This card is all Pure versus LFI, and I'm here for that. The one non-Pure versus LFI match that is still lucharific is Mexico Squad is going for their rematch against Shane Taylor Promotions after losing that 6-man a few weeks ago. So loaded card for Lucha fans, and as we keep saying, they are the other company that consistently has made good use out of Lucha talent. We were talking about them earlier when we were talking about they have a ready-made spot for Andrade. I will point out that Rush consistently is representing Andrade in his gear too. Like, they don't ever call it out, but if you know what you're looking at, you look at the mask, you look at the knee pads, La Sombra is there. So, we have this home for Lucha Libre here. They are consistently giving it to us here in 2021. And so you're getting all of that. And they're going to they're setting the table up even more, because next week on television, it's going to be an 8-man match with LFI against the Foundation. So basically, if you want to see more shots fired in this Pure wrestling versus the Ingobernable, you got to watch next week's show. You know I will be.
Yeah. Sounds exciting.
I'm super pumped for all of this, if you can't
Yes.
tell.
Ring of Honor, keep bringing it. You bring it to the table, and it's just, this feels good. This feels good. Feels good. This is a Ring of Honor people can feel good about.
Yeah. I mean, and much like MLW, who we've been praising a lot, they're offering a little bit of everything. We've got Mexa Squad being the Technico luchadors. We've got LFI being the Rudo luchadors. We've got High Flyers. We've got Brawlers. We've got the Pure division with the technical Yavis style being highly represented. Yeah. I mean, and then again, since I made a big deal of this in the indie roundup, ROH had the single best representation during lockdown for safety for their wrestlers. They paid everybody to stay home. Like their
bubble is I mean, their procedures and their bubble is like really one of the best out there. So now if they could just get women's wrestling back on there, they'd be perfect.
Oh, well, all of the top talent keeps getting scalped so hard, and I am confident they will get it back, but I think their current strategy of focusing on who they've got and making that work.
Very fair. Very fair. That is true. Just wanted to plug that in there for you, ROH. We love you, but we know you can still do better.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to throw that out there. But you guys are doing great. You're doing great, sweetie. You're doing great.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that we do love what you've done for wrestling in the year 2020, and what you're doing now in 2021 for Lucha Libre is off the charts. I love it.
Dusty, you have a quick New Japan update for us.
Yeah, I do. Jeff Cobb, he was in the New Japan Cup. He was eliminated in the second round of the tournament by Evil. He really lived up to his name in this match. He both attacked Red Shoes and won with a low blow.
He attacked Red Shoes?
Yeah, it was crazy.
The monster!
Grabbed him by his shirt. Yeah, it was intense for Evil. Like, it's more than we usually get to see. It was fun. I enjoyed the match. Evil has gone on through quite a few matches now to the semifinals and will face Shingo Takagi on March 20th. So, yeah, keep an eye out for that.
And our final news story of the day is from the NWA. And we mentioned that they would be coming back, and they are. This Sunday, March 21st, NWA Back for the Attack is going to be live on Fight TV. It will be available to order. And that includes, already a tough week for Thunder Rosa. She's going to be on the card, and this is actually a NWA World Women's Championship #1 contender match. She will be facing Camille, and this is actually something that they've alluded to and worked through for over a year now, back when they were taping Power. But the winner of this match will be the new #1 contender for the NWA World Women's Championship. And of course there's others on the card. You have Nick Aldis defending the NWA World Heavyweight Championship against Aaron Stevens. And then you also have a 4-way match that includes Jax Dane, Crimson, Jordan Clearwater, and Slice Boogie. And there's also been teased other surprises coming, people that we don't expect may pop up. So you could check out the NWA on social media. And, again, Back for the Attack is going to be live on Fight TV. This Sunday, March 21st. And I'm sure we're going to be talking about Thunder Rosa's match against Camille. It'll be very interesting to see if she becomes the #1 contender, and what that means, because we've only been seeing the NWA World Women's Championship on AEW television. So, is that match
In fairness, they were the only ones recording.
Well, that's what I was saying. They were the only one recording. So can we get that match on AEW, or is it going to be likely going to be within another NWA event? But it would be very interesting if they, continue to tell that story on television. I kind of, though, have a feeling this may be a time for Camille to shine. She's been one that the company has been high on. And we already anticipate that Thunder Rosa's time is going to be split with, of course, AEW, Mission Pro, and others.
Yeah.
This is a really good opportunity to build up Camille as a very serious contender.
Yeah, and they've been waiting for her to step up, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
So make sure to check out NWA Back for the Attack this Saturday, or Sunday.
Sunday.
March
Sunday,
21st on Fight TV.
Fight TV.
And with that is it for this week's edition of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Don't forget to check out luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. And you can also check out Lucha Central on social media, at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at Lucha Central.com on Twitter. We mentioned the YouTube page. Either way, whether it's going to be live or a little delayed, you will get our wrap-up of Expo Lucha on the YouTube page, on Lucha Central's YouTube page. But they also have lots of great interviews and matches that you could see for free on Lucha Central's YouTube page. And then while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and follow us on social media? Dusty, where can our listeners find you?
I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy, and I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
I am 321 T-shirt guy. That's the numbers 321. T-shirt guy is all spelled out. I am on the Facebook. I am on the Instagram. I am extra super on the Twitter, where I am also Miranda's inbox. And I bring this up this week specifically because Miranda is hosting an event during Expo Lucha. So if you want to give instant feedback to people that are communicating with Miranda, or they open an inbox there, that's me. I will be on Twitter and also Instagram while the event is going on. So if you want to tell Miranda she's doing a good job, I'm your guy.
Yes, well, a live tweet of sorts during the Ring of Love dating show. But yes, thank you very much, Brendan. Again, I will be hosting the Ring of Love dating game during Expo Lucha this Saturday. Make sure you stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, a luchador-centric dating game. I mean, what could go wrong? If anything, it's all about finding true love.
I don't
Puro
think
amor.
Poor girl knows what she's in for.
Yes, I am not sure either. But that's going to be my job, to help her navigate the rough seas of love so she can find her tag team partner for life. Me, Miranda Morales, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the #Miranda. Hashtag is spelled out. Let us know your thoughts. Feel free to reach out to any of us on social media. And also, while you're at it, if you are listening to this through one of your podcast streaming platforms like Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. So subscribe, so every time a new episode drops, you can get notified. You can give us a 5-star rating, and you can leave us a review. As Dusty mentioned, he's changing some things up with AEW, so let us know what you think about the format of the show, any topics that we should cover in the future, things that you like or you don't like about the show. Let us know. Trust us, we can handle it. And thank you all so much for listening to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. We always greatly appreciate it. And we'll be back next week with another edition, because that's literally in the name. We're Lucha Central Weekly. So we just got to keep on rolling with the weekly stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what we do.
Week in, week out.
Week in, week out, 52 weeks, we got you.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine, or even with time zone changes, we got you. So for Brendan Barr and Dusty Murphy, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you so much, and we will be back next week.
Respetable público, lucharán a 2 de 3